All right, we're live. So I'm trying to get people over from the Tuareg video, which just premiered. So I'm new to all of this. This is the first time doing a premiere. I've got a new live stream set up. So can anyone tell me how my audio and video is looking? My audio and video is looking. Okay, great. I had a little echo there, so I'll turn down my volume. I'm using a better microphone this time than I did during the last live stream. So hopefully this will be a lot better than the last one we did. Can you guys let me know? I think the echo is gone now, right? Okay, thanks. So I'm seeing some people come over from the Tuareg premiere, so I'm glad that worked out. I hope that's all working. It's just really confusing how YouTube makes all this work. So, all right. So if I'm going to put this video up as a recording, as a normal video after this is live, so most people end up watching this later on in the coming week. So if you're doing that, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And just know, if you are watching it that way, that this is a live stream, so it's kind of long and it's not the normal format of most of my videos. So what I want to do this morning, there's been a lot of news coming out of EICMA, the big motorcycle show in Italy, and Honda and Suzuki in particular announced new bikes. The new Transalp, which I've got here on the screen, and Suzuki has a new V-Strom, which is there. So they're new Japanese midsize adventure bikes, and we're going to talk about them today and kind of how they compare to other mid-size adventure bikes. So give me a second here. I'm going to catch up with some of the chat messages and see. And just so you guys know, if you really want to prioritize your question this morning in the live stream, you can do the super thanks or super chat or whatever it is. You can donate a small amount to the channel, which goes back into content creation. So you're able to do that. And if anyone has done that so far, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But that's a way to get your question prioritized. So yeah, there's a lot of questions about, there's a lot of comments about, these bikes, they don't have tubeless wheels, they don't have cruise control. So we're going to cover some of that, some of the, I think, ways that I think Suzuki and Honda both kind of missed a little bit here. A lot of new people coming in. It's good to see everybody. Looks like there's a couple hundred people watching the stream. That's really great. Yeah, Troy says cruise control, heated grips, tubeless tires, keyless ride. Well, a lot of people don't want the keyless ride. So here's one thing I want to say. So I created a buyer's guide, which I'll put here on the screen. It looks like this. Now, this is available for free download as a PDF below here in the video description. I also put it in my Tuareg video, and I'll put it in my future videos. You can download this for free, no strings attached. It just shows you the new bikes compared to everything else and all the specs that you would care about. There's a few things missing, like we don't know how much torque the V-Strom makes. We also don't know the pricing of the new bikes. But if you want to see how they stack up to everything, I've already compiled all that here in a buyer's guide. So yeah, a lot of people are saying lack of tubeless is a deal breaker. So what I'll say about the tubeless wheels is that I agree that that's kind of a mistake that they didn't do that on a bike that's going to be used a lot for touring and long distance. You can do aftermarket conversions for tubeless, but they're not very good. It'd obviously be better to have factory tubeless wheels. That's one of the reasons I really like the Tuareg that I just bought, because it does have tubeless wheels. All right, let's see what other questions are coming in here. And remember, you can use that. I think I turned on the thing where you can make a donation. All right, Mike says, which bike is not tubeless? So the V-Strom, the new V-Strom 800DE and the Honda Transalp 750, they both use tubes in the tires, which is kind of strange because I think that the V-Strom 650 XT was using tubeless spoked wheels. So that's really interesting. I think it has something to do with that 21-inch front wheel. There's a lot of chat coming in here. Let me try to get caught up. So somebody says they want electronic suspension. F900 GS. Yeah, we were just talking about that. BMW hasn't updated their 800 or their 850 GS in a while, and it's a little bit behind. So it'd be cool if they brought out a new one. But that came out in 2019, so I think we're probably a couple or a few years away from BMW doing anything new. William says, do you feel like the Transalp and 800DE are going to crowd their bigger brothers at all? Yeah, I think so. And I think Honda and Suzuki, if you look at what manufacturers do, they're always very careful about preserving their higher end model. So for Honda, they already, in their mind, they feel that they have a great adventure bike with the Africa Twin. You can get electronic suspension, you can get tubeless wheels, you can get cruise control, all that stuff comes on the Africa Twin. So for them, if they make a Transalp that has all these features that the Africa Twin does, all those premium features, in their mind, they're cutting out their Africa Twin customers. They've already paid for that bike. They want to keep selling it. So that's why they don't do it. That's why it's disappointing when you see like they don't put the features on the lower end bikes. Oh, thank you, Life's Journey at 50 for the donation. That's awesome. And I do need to buy a skid plate for the Tuareg. I already broke it off. There's no way I can keep up with all these messages here. Let's see. Meerkat, hey Meerkat, good to see you. He says, don't mind tube tires. Yeah, tube tires, I mean, off-road guys like tubes. They tend to use that, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But the touring-oriented riders and the street-oriented riders, they just like to be able to plug their tire, I think. Let's see. Francisco, no, I don't know. I just went to Yamaha's website. You're asking about the new Tenere. So here's the Yamaha has the 2023 T7 up on their website in the USA. In the USA, we're not getting any of those special models like whatever they had, the Rally or the World Raid, or they don't have any of that. They just have a basic T7, same old LCD screen, no new electronics, nothing's changed. And the price went up to $10,500. So it's getting pretty close to that Tuareg level, which doesn't make sense to me because it doesn't have any of the features of the Tuareg. Thank you, Stefan, for your donation. Is having tubes that big of a deal? Are T7 owners having issues? I think the thing with the tubeless is people just like to be able to do like a 5-minute tire plug, you know, on the side of the road and then reinflate the tire. With a tube, you actually have to pull the wheel off the bike. So you're going to need some sort of a stand to lift the rear wheel up. If you don't have a center stand, you're going to have to pull it off, lever the tire off the rim, which a lot of people don't know how to do. And you got to break the bead and all that stuff. Put a new tube in, and it's like an hour repair for a lot of people versus 5 minutes. So that's why people like the tubeless. Let's see. What other questions are coming in here? So while I'm looking at some of these questions, I want to kind of show you some of the stuff I've pulled up. So it's interesting. This is the old Transalp. It almost, when I pulled this up, I almost thought this was the new one. This is the old 600 Transalp, which we only got here for like 1 or 2 years. The new one looks a lot like this. It's kind of funny how they kept the same design. Here's the new one here. Now on the V-Strom, what do you guys think of the V-Strom styling? I don't know. You know, they're going after their like heritage of like the DR800, and I guess they had some rally bikes back in the day. But a lot of people that I know think it's kind of, the styling's just really kind of strange. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Thank you, Lackland Kennard, for your donation. I appreciate it. Jeff's ADV Agenda says, we'll be donating a case of coconut water. Thank you. Yeah, I am a fan of that. DR Big. Yeah, we never got the DR Big in the States. However, a viewer has contacted me and said I can go review. He has a DR Big 800. He wants me to go review it here. So I'm going to do that because it's such a cool bike. Yeah, so the V-Strom has a beak where the Transalp doesn't have that. I don't know. The styling just looks very weird to me. The Transalp, I really like the look of the Transalp, and it looks like the seat's really low. So speaking of the specs, why don't we look at the specs just a little bit? I don't want to get boring, but some things I want to point out. So on the V-Strom, so the V-Strom has always been a V-twin engine, right? A 90-degree twin. Now they've gone to a parallel twin with the cylinders going like this. They have to do that for packaging reasons, for weight reasons. It's a better thing. That's the way everyone's going to go. And I know why Suzuki's going away from the V-twin, but it's kind of sad because that was a legendary engine for them. So it's a parallel twin. They're saying about 83 horsepower. We don't know the torque. It has a big fuel tank, 20-liter tank, 5.3 gallons. Should be a great fuel range. The seat height is pretty low, 33.7 or 855 mils. The suspension on the V-Strom is a lot better than the suspension on the Transalp, just from looking at the specs. So the V-Strom has a fully adjustable suspension, whereas the Transalp has no adjustments except for preload. Also, the V-Strom has a lot more travel. It has 2 inches more travel than the Transalp does. It has almost 9 inches of suspension travel, which is really competitive with some of the higher end adventure bikes in the class. The Transalp has a non-adjustable suspension and it's only, let's see, 7.7 inches of travel. So the Transalp is really more of a all roads touring or light off-road. I don't think you're going to be super aggressive with it off-road with that suspension, but I mean, it's hard to say. We would need to ride the bike to really know. I'm sorry, there's no way I can keep up with all the chats that you guys have. I'll try to go back through these. Scott says, where do you find the spreadsheet? The spreadsheet is my spreadsheet. I made it, so it's a buyer's guide. You can download it for free. There's a link below here. You can just download the PDF, no strings attached. It's just something that I do for everybody. Somebody says the Suzuki might have cruise control. I don't think it does, but I could be wrong on that. I tried to look into that. I don't think either of these bikes have cruise control. They're both ride-by-wire because they have throttle, they have traction control, but they don't have cruise control, as far as I can tell. Not on the 800 V-Strom. The thing with the okay, Daniel found the torque on the Suzuki. That's good to know. So another thing on the Suzuki is that it's heavy, right? That's the problem. So I don't know how it's so heavy, but it's 507 pounds or 230 kilograms, which is pretty much the weight of like a lot of the full-size bikes. That's heavier than an Africa Twin 1100. It's pretty much as heavy as their V-Strom 1050, I think. So I don't really know why it's so heavy. A lot of people are complaining about that. Jay says, no, it does not have cruise control. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's no cruise on the Transalp or the new V-Strom. This V-Strom 1050, the current 1050 V-Strom does have cruise control. And again, that's Suzuki trying to say that if you want those premium features, get the bigger, more expensive bike. You have to think like the company thinks. So if you're Suzuki, you have to look at all the models you have and say, okay, where does this fit in? You can't give your small model, the cheap model, all the features of the big one. They're just not going to do that. Yeah, Suzuki's heavy. For off-road riders, the bolt-on subframe. Yeah, so bikes that have a bolt-on subframe is really good if you get damage to the frame. We don't know much about that. We don't know anything about the maintenance intervals yet. It's a brand new engine for Suzuki, the 800 parallel twin. They're saying it has some pretty cool technology, like some sort of new balancer system. We don't know the maintenance intervals yet on either of these bikes. The Honda engine is new too. Thank you for your donation, Lachlan. So you looks like there's Australian pricing released. Cheaper than the Tenere, cheaper than the Tuareg. I mean, I think Suzuki has a great opportunity to have really aggressive pricing. And if they can actually build the bikes and get them in dealers, I think they're going to sell really, really well. And the thing about the weight is that, yeah, on paper, it's 60 pounds more than my Tuareg 660. That is a lot. But sometimes bikes have a way of hiding their weight. Maybe it won't feel that heavy. Maybe it won't be a huge issue. They're still going to sell them. It's still going to be a good machine. And I like the suspension on it. I think the motor, Suzuki makes amazing motors. I think it's going to be good. Let's see. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what the US pricing comes out to be, because I'd be surprised if it's less than the Tenere 700. It seems like a lot of bike for the money if it was that. Okay, so then moving on to the Transalp, a little bit on the specs. So the Transalp is using their new parallel twin engine. It's really powerful. It's 90 horsepower. That's really great. I mean, this bike has a great power to weight ratio. It's going to be fun to ride. It's only 458 pounds, 207 kilograms, and it makes 90 horsepower or 67 kilowatts. That's going to be great. That's really nice power to weight ratio on the Honda. Yes, people are talking about the promo video. So I actually had the promo video here. I was on the ADV Pulse website, and they showed. So yeah, here's kind of the promo video here from Honda. So it's marketing, you know, obviously. Um, the other thing is that, does anyone know if these bikes are confirmed coming to the USA? Because everyone's just kind of assuming that they're going to be available everywhere. But in the past, Honda didn't, for a long time, Honda didn't sell Africa Twins in the US. They didn't sell the Transalps in the US. So we don't always get all these models. I hope we're getting them. But yeah, here's some of the, so yeah, new frame. They talk about the low weight. I think the bike looks really great too. I need to take a drink. Yeah, I hope they come to the US. I really do. So there's a little promo video. That's a Honda video, so I shouldn't get a copyright infringement for that, hopefully. Also, you guys probably read ADV Pulse, but they have an amazing website, really good publication. They do really good work. Here's a little. Oh, I was watching Moto Bob. I don't know if you guys follow Moto Bob. He's in the Europe, I think in the UK. He's a really great guy, really good YouTuber, and he was at EICMA. So he was showing, he was there at EICMA, you know, kind of looking at the new V-Strom 800. He has a great video on the bike if you want to check it out. I highly recommend that. And I don't know how he does his edits, like on the fly, really well. He's really a very good YouTuber. But he's looking at it and talking about it. He seemed pretty impressed with it. So if you want more details on that, check it out. I might go to EICMA next year. I just really I couldn't make it work to go this year. It's a big commitment for me, especially with a 2-year-old at home. So yeah, I mean, it's got TFT dash. We're looking at the V-Strom here. It's got the 21-inch wheels. Let's see, whole new engine, really good suspension. They're going to have different models. Suzuki always does that. So they'll have like a model where you can get like crash bars and bags and luggage with it and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know about the Suzuki styling. It's not really my thing, but it's just, you know, if you like it or not. Let's see. So yeah, 21-inch front wheel. Now, a lot of people, I want to mention, a lot of people kind of glossed or skipped over the fact that Suzuki introduced a new model of the 1050. So they're trying to compete with the Africa Twin and the bigger bikes. They have a 1050DE right now. Let me pull it up here on the website. So if you look at their this is the 1050DE. It has a 21-inch front wheel, more suspension travel, a lot more off-road stuff, and it does have cruise control and more features. So if you want a larger V-Strom, if you're okay going up in price and weight and engine power, you can get a lot of the stuff on the 1050. And I think I don't know if these are tubeless wheels. Let's go and see. But the 1050 is not, see, there's a cruise control, heated grips. The 1050 is a pretty nice bike. I did a review on one, and I'm going to get the DE model as soon as I can. Suzuki's really great to work with. They always get me the bikes really quickly. So let's see here what it says. Chassis features, transmission and driveline, engine. Anyway, oh, let's see. That's interesting. So on the 1050 V-Strom, the front tire has a tube and the rear tire is tubeless, right from their own website. That doesn't make any sense at all. Why would they do that? I guess they don't have a 21-inch front wheel that they could source that was a tubeless wheel. That's really strange. This is the 1050 again, not the 800. But anyway, you guys should look at that. That's yeah, Daniel says 1050 has tubeless, but not on the front. According to Suzuki, the front is a tube tire. That's really weird to me. So 16 grand for the 1050. So I'm guessing the 800 is going to be maybe, you know, 11 grand, 12 grand, 13, somewhere in that range, I would guess. All right, let me catch up on some of the questions here. Africa Twin 700. So Chris says, why don't they make an Africa Twin 700? I think that goes back to what I said earlier. I really think that Honda, these companies are very concerned about their branding, about maintaining the models they have. They want to keep selling the big Africa Twin. So for them, in their mind, the best off-road adventure bike they have is still the Africa Twin. I think for their point of view, the Transalp is more of a mid-size all-roads touring bike, like the Transalp has always been. The Transalp was never this hard-charging off-road rally bike. It never was. That was the Africa Twin for them, bigger suspension, more features, things like that. The Transalp was always more of a touring bike that could do some off-road, and I think it still kind of is. Everyone expects it to be like, you know, going right up against the T7 or the Tuareg or the KTM 890, and I don't think it really does. Yeah, Moto Bob that's right. Moto Bob's doing really good videos. I know he's at Eichmann. He's uploading really fast. So if you want details, he's a great channel. Yeah, Africa Twin, a smaller Africa Twin. But again, I get that, but Honda's not going to do that. That's not how they're going to do it. I'm sorry, they just won't. I mean, they're going to maintain the Africa Twin as that larger bike at a more premium price point, more engine power. I think they're going to be pretty stubborn with that. I don't think they're going to do that. There's been some questions about the Moto Guzzi V85 against all these. I probably should have put that in my buyer's guide here, but I neglected to put the Moto Guzzi. I always forget about it. It's pretty impressive for what it is. And the thing about the Moto Guzzi, it's shaft drive, which is really the only bike in this whole midsize segment that's shaft drive. It's a little bit heavy. It's not very powerful. The suspension doesn't have a ton of travel. It's not going to be like a hard charging aggressive off-road bike. I have ridden them, and I have a video on one, I think, on my channel. But it's a great bike. I don't want to claim to know too much about it because I haven't done extensive testing with it. Someone says, why revive the Transalp instead of the Dominator? Yeah, I don't know. We never had the Dominator in the US. I don't even know what that is. So just interesting how it's different in different countries. And yeah, when I think of the Transalp, I think of kind of almost like a KLR, something that's more like a touring bike and not like all roads touring, not really like a off-road aggressive bike, you know. Yeah, I do think the V85 is good looking. Wow, we're up to 400 people on the live stream. So that's interesting how these live streams work. I've already given a lot of the information. Now we have more people. But anyway, people will watch this on the recording. So again, just a reminder, download this free buyer's guide. It has all the specs comparing all these mid-sized bikes. So no strings attached. It's linked below here in the video description. And I think I put it in one of the comments too. So you can get that, and I'll update this as I get more information. Maybe I'll add the Moto Guzzi to this. Stuff like this is always a work in progress. So, you know, I'm always changing it and updating it as things come through. So I wonder if I can do like a poll here. Let's see. Yeah, see, I can do a poll. Well, it's complicated. I was going to ask you guys which bike you would buy in this category. You know, I don't know. What do you guys think? If you were going to buy one of these mid-size adventure bikes in the next year, which one would you get, knowing everything that we know right now? I'm kind of curious to know that. Meerkat says, what's next for me? Well, you probably know that I got the Tuareg already. After the Tuareg, I'm not sure. The Transalp probably, if they come here next year, depending on if I can get one. I don't know. I'm gonna put out a poll to everybody on YouTube and ask, like, what bike do you want me to buy after the Tuareg? So the thing is, I want to address this right now. A lot of people kind of complain or criticize sometimes, like, why do you change bikes so much? I thought you liked this one, blah, all that kind of stuff. But you guys, some people are forgetting that this is my job. Like, this is my business to like review bikes. So if I just buy a bike and keep it for 5 or 10 years and do a like ultimate long-term review, like people say, that doesn't work as a YouTuber. I can't do that. I'd be out of business, right? I mean, I can't make one video every 10 years. So that doesn't work. I have to change bikes all the time. That's why you see me selling stuff. So even when I really love a motorcycle, like I love this Tuareg, I loved my Africa Twin, I loved the 890 Rally, but I can't, it doesn't make sense for me to keep it. I can't run my business that way. I have to buy new models to make new content, to keep reviewing bikes, and to keep increasing the knowledge base of Big Rock Moto, to keep giving you more information. So that's really what it is. So people's responses are coming in. Yeah, T7s, KTM 890. Urban Adventure says, other than the weight, do you see any downsides to the Suzuki? I think the Suzuki is going to be an awesome bike, and I think it might be better in a lot of ways than the Transalp. I just wish it had cruise control. That would be really nice. And but other than that, I mean, if the suspension is good, like it looks on paper, fully adjustable, long travel, I think that V-Strom could be really killer. And it's got it's going to have a really good motor. Suzuki does really good engines. Let's see, the T7s. Would I sell the 890 Rally? Actually, I already did. I haven't been talking about that. But the reality is, I mean, I don't have unlimited resources for this business. So in order to buy new bikes for review, I can't hold on to a bike just because I like it. I'm not a normal person. I'm not a normal motorcycle rider. I am a journalist, a content creator. So I have to change bikes. Even if I like a bike a lot, it really doesn't make sense for me to keep it. What do you do with your previous bikes? Trade them in? No, I've never traded a motorcycle in my whole life. So I've bought and sold like 40 different motorcycles in my life, I think. I've never done a trade-in because the dealers just give you nothing for trade, and I can't do that. So I always sell for top dollar on the private market. You can sell on Facebook, Craigslist. ADVrider.com is a great place to sell your bike. So I take really good photos, get the bike super clean, do a really good ad, and I always sell my bikes for top dollar just because I can't afford to take a huge loss trading something in just for convenience. I would never do that. How many bikes have you had total? I think I'm up to about 40 different motorcycles since I started riding. It's always been one of my advantages that I've had as a motorcycle YouTuber is that I've owned almost everything, so I can talk about all this stuff. If I just had one or two bikes, like a lot of you recommend, like, oh, why don't you just buy a bike and keep it forever? Well, if I did that, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. So it just, you can't have it both ways. I bet your taxes suck. Yes, they do. My taxes suck. What about the Ducati Scrambler? I just don't know enough about the Ducati Scrambler to really talk about it yet. When will the KTM 490 Adventure be released? I'm not sure. KTM, you know, these companies don't talk about stuff, and I just don't know. I don't even know if that's going to happen for sure. They already have a 390 and a 690 and an 890 and a 1290. The 490 is what everybody wants. But here's the thing about the KTM 490, how I feel. I think if they actually do that, I wouldn't get your hopes up that it's going to be some like premium level bike with great suspension and great electronics and all the features, because again, they're going to look at it like Honda does with the Transalp. They're going to say, well, this has to fit at a price point, at a budget, at a certain kind of buyer, because they already have the 890R, which is like pretty much the most capable adventure bike that there is, in my opinion. So why would they take all the sales away from their 890 by making a 490 that did everything as well as the 890? That's not how corporations make decisions. Will the KTM be a parallel twin? I don't know. I hope it is, because they already have the 390 that's a single. KTM over the Aprilia. I mean, so the thing is, I'm going to have more videos on the Tuareg coming really soon. I just premiered the first one this morning. The Tuareg is really, in a lot of ways, it's a nicer machine than the KTM. It doesn't feel cheap and chintzy. The motor feels really smooth and refined, and everything feels high quality, almost like a BMW, versus the KTMs, which to me just feel really cheap and plasticky and chintzy. The motors sound like gravel. I mean, they perform amazing. They really do. They just perform amazing. But the Tuareg, I really enjoy riding the Tuareg a lot. Do you believe the weight that they list on the Transalp? Yeah, I mean, the manufacturers have gotten pretty good with their weights. I mean, it might be a few pounds off, but it should be pretty close. Thoughts on the Super Meteor 650 by Royal Enfield? Yeah, Royal Enfield's a whole nother topic. I think what they're doing is they're just using their 650 twin engine that they already have, right? So they have the Interceptor, they have the Continental GT. So of course they're going to use that engine and put it in a different chassis or a different style of bike. That just makes sense. And the Meteor is kind of their more cruiser style bike, which is really not my thing. Without thinking, quickly say what's your favorite all-around bike of all time. BMW R1250 GS. There we go. That's what I would say. It's not amazing for off-road, for technical off-roading. I wouldn't take the 1250 GS, but as an all-around motorcycle, that's why I have bought another one. I shouldn't have bought it because I can't really make many videos with it. For the channel, it's not a good business decision. But when I want to take a long ride, go for long distance riding, there's nothing, and I mean nothing, not a Goldwing, not a BMW touring bike, nothing for me that's as comfortable or as nice to ride in all conditions as a BMW GS. It's just incredible. It's just amazing. Tenere World Raid. Yeah, I wish we got like the World Raid and those kind of special editions. We just don't get them in the US. I don't know if we're ever going to get them. It took Yamaha like 3 years just to get the basic T7 here when everyone else had it. So I really don't know. Aprilia Tuareg sales just went up. I hope they do. I think that's why I'm doing this video series, and that's why I bought the Tuareg. I don't think it's getting enough attention or enough love from everybody. It's an incredibly well-performing package, like truly is. The only downside to the Aprilia is a smaller dealer network. And if you need parts or something, which I rarely do, I never really go to the dealer for anything, but if you did break something or have a repair, it can take a while to get parts, and parts can be expensive from Aprilia. But other than that, and if you don't have a local dealer, that's a huge problem. I have a bunch of dealers within a couple hours, so in California, it's not a problem. But if I was going to travel like around the world or do a lot of long distance travel without support or without being near cities, I don't know that I would take an Aprilia. I'd probably take a Honda or a Yamaha or Kawasaki, you know. Excuse me for a second. It's super cold. It actually snowed yesterday. You can't see outside on the webcam, but it's actually snow on the ground now here where I live. What tires did you put on the 660? So I put on the Moto's dual venture front and the Ral's rear. I put them on like after I rode the bike about 20 miles, just because I was going out into the desert to do the sand and the mud and do the advanced training class with Quinn Cody from KTM. So I needed aggressive tires. I'm really happy with them. The Moto's tires, they hook up, they work off-road, and they don't hold me back, and they last a really long time for a knobby. So they're not the best on the road, but they're okay. Is the 800 GS any good? Yeah, I mean, I used to have an 800 GS. It was a great bike, you know, good Rotax engine, great machine ahead of its time when it was released in 2009. So they're really good bikes to buy used on the used market. Meerkat says a 17 degrees in Nevada. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to make that Nevada ride with you, not just because of the weather, but I just can't get that kind of time off right now. I tried to ride the Nevada BDR last year at this time, and same thing happened. It was like cold and snowing, and I just couldn't do the ride. I want to cover this. I think I covered this in the chat earlier. This is not a video dedicated to this, but there's been a lot of hate on the internet about KTM's new demo mode on the 890. So there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of bad information about this. So number one, the KTM has always you've always had to pay extra to get the cruise control, the rally mode with a switchable traction control levels on the fly, and the quick shifter. All that stuff has always been an extra cost on the KTM 790 and 890 ever since the 790 came out. So nothing's different. The thing KTM did, which was really stupid, is it's a marketing nightmare for them, because what they already were charging extra for those things. But now what they did, they said, oh, we're going to let you try them out for like whatever it is, a month or a few months or something. And if you like them, you can pay to keep them. So they just flipped it around, and they're giving it to you, and then I guess it'll go away unless you pay for it. And that's bad. People don't like that idea that you're going to take away a feature. They should have just kept it like it was, because they already charged extra for it. They were already getting the extra money. So it never came with the bike anyway. Now they just screwed everybody. They just screwed up, because now everyone hates them and is mad. But I also want to say it's not a subscription model. You're not paying it's not like that. I don't know why people think that. It's just if you want that extra stuff, you have to pay an additional charge for those features, like the rally mode or quick or cruise control, whatever it is. It's not a subscription. It's a slimy tactic. It is kind of a slimy tactic. I agree. A lot of companies, they're trying to figure out how they get money from you after they sell the product. I think they call it after sales income or after sales revenue, whatever. Everyone wants that. They all want that. but they should have just kept it the way it was, because they were already charging more for it. And now they just make it feel like they're taking it away from you, and everybody's pissed off, and it created a lot of confusion. Somebody says, from a consumer perspective, subscription would be better because you could activate them. I guess so. I don't like it. I just want to pay for my bike with the equipment I want, and that's what it is. I don't want to have to turn things off and on, or monthly subscriptions. I don't ever want to do that. And that's not what KTM's doing. Let's see. Any speculation on when electric motorcycles will be just as competitive as gas? I think there's going to have to be a major change in battery chemistry. The energy density of the current batteries is not enough. So the reason that electric motorcycles right now have such bad range is because if you have a battery, the battery that you can fit inside a motorcycle chassis, it's equivalent to like having like a half a gallon of gasoline, or maybe a gallon of gasoline or something like that. The energy density of it, that's just how it works out. And so batteries don't store enough energy. And it's unlike a car where you have all the room in the car or truck to put a big battery. You don't have that on a motorcycle. So I think they're going to have a major breakthrough in battery chemistry technology to get the energy density up there. Because until you can ride at least 200 miles on an electric motorcycle reliably on the highway, it's not going to be viable for anybody, including me. I love electric motorcycles. I really want to buy one next year and do a video series on the channel. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff has to change there. Do you guys think I should do a video? I'm asking, should I do a video on this KTM demo mode, kind of clarifying this? Because I'm not defending KTM. They did a stupid thing from a marketing perspective, but really it's just not as bad as everybody says. Yeah, so Zero has a new adventure bike. I think it's called the DSR-X. I could pull that up here. So this is the new Zero adventure model. I really like it. I really kind of want one, but it's $25,000. And on the highway, I think it has a range of like 80 miles or 90 miles. They say that like off-road or going slowly, you can get like a lot more range. But yeah, it's pretty limiting. That's the thing. I'd love to have one though. I'd love to do a video series with it. I just don't know what the interest level is. Someone says, yeah, do the demo video, demo mode video. All right. Yeah, Clifton Rogers says the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R might be a replacement for the BMW. I'm thinking about, yeah, I shouldn't say this right now, but I'm thinking about getting a KTM 1290. I don't know if I'd get the S or the R, but 170 horsepower and adaptive cruise control and electronic suspension, all that sounds like a really good package to me. I just wonder, like, I don't think it's going to be as refined or as comfortable or as nice as the BMW in some ways, but I mean, 170 horsepower is going to be pretty nice. Let's see, is one of your videos going to have upgrades on the 660? Yes, I'm going to be doing the quick shifter and a few things like that. The quick shifter, that's one complaint I have about the Tuareg right now, is that the parts are kind of tough to get. So they don't have any quick shifters. They sold out. So they're like waiting for a month or two to get more quick shifters so I can put it on. It's only $200, so it's pretty cheap, but you just can't get one. Let's see. So hard to keep up with all these comments. Okay, we're at 40 minutes. I want to try to keep this under an hour. So if people are watching it during the recording, they're not going to click on a video if it says it's more than an hour long. Yeah, the 1290. So there's some things I like about the GS and compared to the 1290. Like when you drop a GS 1200 or 1250, it rests on the cylinders or the crash bars, and so it only falls over like part of the way. It's really easy to pick up. It also feels really lightweight. It has an incredible low speed balance. I'm talking about the GS. Like you can just ride around at like 5 miles an hour on this 600-pound bike, and it just balances so well. I just don't think the KTM is going to be as good at that. Let's see. What about the midsize Pan America? So yeah, Harley is supposedly going to introduce a smaller Pan America. I hope they do. But here's my issue. How much lighter is it really going to be? Because if you just took a Pan America with the same bike and like put a smaller engine in, it's going to be like 5 or 10 pounds less. Just making the engine displacement smaller doesn't make the bike that much lighter. That's the problem. You'd have to redesign the bike entirely, different chassis, different components. And are they really going to do all that? And even if they do, I would doubt that it's going to be below 500 pounds. Someone says, is it easier to pick up a GS than my V-Strom 650? Yes, it is. Let's see, any updates on the Africa Twin? I doubt it, because the Africa Twin was new in 2020. So they're probably going to run that for a few more years. So the new 1290 has the lower the saddle gas tank like the 890s do. So it might be easier to pick up now. I really like that 1290. I really kind of want to get one. 1200 GS versus 890 off-road. So now we're definitely getting off the topic of the new models, but just I can cover that real briefly. The GS is good for dirt roads and fire roads and some moderate Jeep trails. But if it gets technical, when it starts to get technical, the GS is just too big and heavy. And the 890R, whether you have the Rally or whatever, is an incredible bike for hardcore off-roading. It can do amazing things, and it's easier to ride than a big 1200. But I would say the same thing of my Tuareg. Like the Tuareg is very competitive with the 890 in terms of overall capability. Very competitive. It's shockingly good, actually. Trying to catch up with the comments here. And remember, if you want me to prioritize your question, you can use the little donation thing and make a small donation to the channel. Then your chat will come up in my feed and I'll be able to see your question. A lot of good comments here. Let's see. I hope the Pan America 975 will be lower. Yeah. So for low seat, there's not many good adventure bikes for shorter riders. I mean, it's tough. Like it's hard for them to make the bike low enough and still have enough suspension travel and ground clearance. So that's why those seats are pretty tall. And everybody likes to make a big deal about the Pan America where it lowers when you come to a stop, but it only lowers about 3/4 of an inch. Or like, I don't know, what is that, like 20 millimeters? It's not a huge difference. Anders Friedel, what is better, the new Transalp or the new Tuareg? I mean, I think the Tuareg is going to be a lot better off-road. There's just no way the Transalp with only 7.5 inches of suspension travel, less ground clearance. So if you look at the Transalp here, the exhaust runs under the engine, and I don't like that. That really hurts their ground clearance. And if you look, the ground clearance on the Transalp is only 8 inches. And to compare that, an 890 Adventure R is 10.5 inches. So you can see by running that exhaust under here really hurts their ground clearance. Also, the suspension travel is really not enough for serious off-roading. You'll be okay, but it's not going to ride as well. You're not going to be able to ride it as fast. I think what you're going to see is a lot of people are going to get this new Transalp, and you're going to have companies like Rally Raid or whatever doing a suspension upgrade kit. It's going to raise the bike up. It's going to be even taller. But I think with good suspension, this would be a pretty incredible bike and would be a pretty exciting package to have. Let's see. Here's another image of the Transalp here with some of the optional accessories. You can see more here on this picture, the exhaust that runs under the engine like that. So that's a real issue for ground clearance. I don't know why exactly they did that. Okay, let's see what other questions are coming in. Yeah, Plurby says the T7 only has a little more travel and seems to do fine. That's true. The T7 doesn't have a lot of suspension travel either. I was personally, and I hope no one takes offense, but I was just really kind of disappointed with the suspension on the Tenere 700. it didn't feel good at anything. Like it was kind of stiff, but it would also like bottom out if you hit anything, and it didn't ride very well. I just wasn't, I didn't like the suspension on the T7 very much, just for me. And I also felt the bike didn't it wasn't that stable like in rocks and stuff. I mean, you can set it up differently, but I don't know. I wasn't the hugest fan of the T7 that everybody else is. But the thing is, I'm spoiled because I can ride everything back to back. I can jump on an 890R. I can jump on a Tiger 900. I can jump on a Tuareg and tell you that the T7 is pretty lacking in the chassis compared to these other bikes. It does a good job. It's still fine. And with the T7, you get the incredible reliability, and it's never going to break down, and it's more affordable. It has less stuff to break. So I get it. Yeah, Meerkat says, yeah, he swapped out his suspension. It's just not good suspension. But you have to realize that a lot of these bikes, like the Transalp and the T7 and stuff, they can't afford, at the price they're selling these bikes, they can't afford to spend $3,000 or $4,000 on the suspension when they're selling the whole bike for $10,000. They just can't do that. So high center of gravity on the T7, yeah, I totally agree with that. It does. A lot of people give me a hard time about that, but I think it's true. It's just relative to other bikes, you know. The Transalp does have tube tires, yes. Owners of the bike have confirmation bias. Yeah, so confirmation bias is like you are more proud of your choice, so you're going to defend the bike you own because you paid money for it and you like it. So yeah, I totally get that. And it's something we all have. It's hard to avoid, but I'm a little bit better with that because I don't get attached to bikes. I don't care. Like I don't care with the brand. I don't care the bike. They're just all machines to me. They come and go. They get broken, whatever it is. Like, I mean, it just, I don't get attached to stuff. I don't, you know, they're all the same to me. So I just try to evaluate everything based on if it's good or not. Let's see. Oh, that's a good. So Jeff, my friend Jeff, ADV Agenda, you should check out his YouTube channel, by the way, ADV Agenda. He does really good reviews on camping gear and stuff like that. So ADV Agenda, if you're retiring from YouTube and can only pick 2 bikes, what would they be? If I could only pick 2 bikes, probably I would need an off-road bike. So maybe like my 890 Rally would be one of them because of the suspension. And the second bike would probably be a 1250 GS for touring, and I could still do some off-road with the GS. I think that'd be my 2 bikes that I would have. I don't do a ton of dirt biking, so that would I'd have to lose out on that if I could only have 2 bikes, I think. The Norden, yeah, a lot of people gave me a hard time about selling the Norden, but I think people just don't understand that I'm a YouTuber who does videos on motorcycles, so keeping a bike for a long period of time is a terrible business decision for me. I can't do that, like even if I like it. So people just need to stop taking it personally. Like it's not that I love the Norden. It was a great bike. The suspension wasn't that great in my opinion, but I like it. And you know, if I wasn't having to make new videos, I probably would have just kept it. What if you were poor and only had to have one bike? If I only had to have one bike, it would be an 890R or an 890 Rally. Or maybe the Tuareg. The Tuareg that I have now is really competitive. The suspension is really good, actually. And yeah, I don't know. I really like the Tuareg so far. It'd be a good one bike to have. You know, honestly, if Yamaha would give us like a more high spec Tenere 700, here's what I want. I want a Tenere 700 engine, but I want better suspension, better chassis, more fuel, lower center of gravity, cruise control, tubeless wheels, and a better dashboard. If they did all that, then that'd be it. That if they upgraded the T7 with that stuff, I would never have to have any other bike. Like personally, if I wasn't doing videos, I would just own one of those because I love the engine in the T7. Would you say that the 890 normal, not the R, is a good budget option? Yes. The standard 890, the some people call it the S model. It's actually not the S model. It's just the standard 890. Yeah, it's an amazing bike. It's really kind of like the Norden with the suspension that it has. Yeah, really great bike for the money. The engine in the 890 is super powerful. It just is really fast, and the bike handles amazing. Let's see, world. Yeah, V-Track says you just described the Tuareg. Yeah, that's true. That's why I know that I probably have some bias now because I have this bike right now, but again, I don't get attached to stuff, but the Tuareg does have all the upgrades that I wanted on that T7. It has tubeless tires, it has cruise control, it has a TFT dash, it has adjustable traction control on the fly, it has better wind protection, it has more fuel range from a bigger fuel tank, it's more comfortable, the seat's better, and the suspension is really good on the Tuareg, unlike the T7. So yeah, the Tuareg is the T7 that I always wanted. It just happens to be from Aprilia, which sucks because there's not Aprilia dealers everywhere and people don't trust Aprilias with reliability. The Desert X is a great machine. I really enjoy riding it, but there's just, for me, like the Desert X, I mean, it's really expensive, number one. It's like 20 grand by the time you put a few things on it. Ducati is very hard for servicing. They don't let you work on your own bike. You can't get to the air filter on the Desert X either. You have to remove the gas tank, which is a lot of work. But it's a great bike. I love the Desert X is the most attractive bike, I think. It's the best looking. Yeah, so the World, some people are talking about the World Raid on the T7. The World Raid T7, from what I know, it has a bigger fuel tank, it has a TFT, but not much beyond that, right? So they didn't really do a lot of the stuff I was talking. It still doesn't have cruise control, a lot of the stuff that I want. Nomadic Manev says, Desert X or Africa Twin for 50-50 riding. I'd probably get the Honda if it were me. The standard Africa Twin, not the Adventure Sports that I own recently, but the standard one, it's only, I mean, if you look at the specs of it, it's all the way here. It's only 500 pounds for the Africa Twin 1100. It's got cruise control. It's got a lot of torque from the engine, very good Honda quality, pretty good suspension, fully adjustable. It's an extremely capable bike. Not enough people are looking at that standard Africa Twin as a good option there. All right, we're at 50 minutes, so I'll run for about 8 more minutes. So if you have any really important questions, make a little donation with the super chat, and then I can make sure to prioritize your questions. Do you think the market will be bored of parallel twin engines? I guess, but the reality is, for packaging reasons, the way that the motorcycle gets designed around the engine, they have to use a parallel twin. It makes more room for the airbox, for the gas tank. They can move things around. If you think about a V-twin engine and all the room that takes up in the chassis of the bike, it just doesn't work very well. So parallel twin, from a motorcycle engineering standpoint, is far superior. It's probably also cheaper to produce. And what you see the manufacturers doing is they'll make, like Honda will make this new Hornet engine, this new 750 parallel twin. They'll use it in a ton of different bikes. They can move it. They can put it in a cruiser. They can put it in a standard. They can put it in a sport bike, a naked, an adventure bike. That's what companies have to do to remain profitable. So CB500X. So I've got a couple videos on the CB500X on my channel, so you can go check those out. Great bike. I think the Transalp is a nice step up from the CB500X if you want that. Is it worth waiting for the Transalp versus the 500X? You know, the 500X is very underrated. It's an amazingly good, capable bike. If it meets your needs, if it has enough power, it's about 47 horsepower. If the suspension's good enough for you and everything, then just get the 500. You'll save a lot of money. Thank you, David, for your donation. I really appreciate that. Giovanni says the parallel twin might be the final motorcycle engine forever. Maybe, yeah. I think we're going to see a lot of parallel twins. And then, you know, Kawasaki also, we're not going to go into this, but Kawasaki introduced some hybrids and some battery or electric motorcycles at EICMA. So kind of interesting if you go look at those. Thank you, Fred, for your donation. I appreciate it very, very much. So, you know, again, and as we close this out, I just want to remind everybody that, like, Big Rock Moto is my business. Like, I have to run this as a business. So any donations that you make through there, or whenever you use my affiliate links or support what I'm doing, it all goes back into the business account, which then I can use to buy bikes for long-term testing like I did the Tuareg. So I'm not a normal person anymore. These are not really my personal bikes. They're kind of like what I'm buying to review. So We just have to remember that. So that's what you guys are making possible. I appreciate it. Um, Thank you, Chris, for your comment. I appreciate that. So are there any specific questions? I mean, this video was really trying to focus on the new Transalp and the new V-Strom. I think we've kind of covered all the specs and kind of, again, you can download the specs. I already made the guide for you, which is linked below. You can download that for free. I think that I just want to review the pros and cons of the Transalp and the V-Strom to me. So for me, the things I love about the new Honda Transalp, the power, 90 horsepower is great. The seat height's pretty low, and it's a Honda, so it's going to be super reliable, really comfortable. The downside for me on the new Transalp are the following: no cruise control, no tubeless tires. The ground clearance kind of sucks, and the suspension looks very budget. Not much travel and no adjustments except for preload. The V-Strom, I think the new V-Strom 800. The pros of that bike for me, I think, are going to be Suzuki makes an amazing engine, so I think that's going to be really good. The suspension looks to be very, very good on the new V-Strom. Long travel suspension, right up there with some of the KTMs and stuff like that, and it's fully adjustable, unlike the Honda. The downsides of the Suzuki, it's very heavy. None of us can understand why it's so heavy. The Transalp, like around 450 pounds. The V-Strom's almost 510 pounds. That's way too heavy, I think. It has tube tires and no cruise control. So that's kind of my wrap up on the new models. But again, until I get them to ride and test, all this is just speculation, Sometimes you seem a little ho-hum, like you're not excited. Yeah, I know. I get accused of that all the time. It's just my personality and just being who I am. And again, you have to realize, like, I'm at work. Like, this is my work. So making videos, doing all the editing, doing all the filming, it's very tiring. I mean, I work 6 or 7 days a week. I put in a ton of hours to this, and I get tired. And it's not like the rest of you where you go out to your bike and it's like a release from your work, where it's like, oh, I get to ride my bike now. I'm done with work. For me, this is my work. So I'm not complaining, but just keeping that in mind, this is my job. So thank you guys for your donations. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Overboost. I really, really appreciate it. Now, Jack, if you're in the US, they actually, the 2023 T7 doesn't have those upgrades in the USA. So we were looking at that earlier. Where is it? So don't be too disappointed, Jack, because the 23 T7, at least in the US, doesn't have any of those updates that Europe is getting. So I don't know. Thank you, Overboost, for your donation. I appreciate it. I prefer the level-headed approach over the hype of the other YouTubers. Yeah, I'm just being myself, and this is just my personality. Wait until you hit 1 million viewers. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. It's just the way I am. I also, I mean, this is not a personal kind of podcast thing or whatever, but I mean, I do have a disease, so I'm sick all the time. It's just, I have an autoimmune disease. It's just my life. So I don't quite have the energy that a lot of people do. And I just try my best to work around it and make the most of it. At what point do you think you'll hire somebody to help you out? I left a really nice kind of cushy corporate job where I managed a team of people. I had a long career in that. I kind of left that job. One of the reasons was that I was always dealing with other people's problems and managing people. It was just extremely tiring, and I got burnt out. So it's kind of nice to be on my own and just worry about myself. But yeah, I think I'd probably grow faster if I had somebody helping me, but I just haven't crossed that bridge yet. All right. Thank you, Jason, for your donation. I truly, truly appreciate that. I really, really do. So I'm going to do last call for questions. If you have a really burning question you want me to talk about, make a little donation thing, and I'll prioritize it, or I'll try to get to these last few questions right now. And I hope the audio and video quality is good enough on this setup. I changed my setup versus the last live stream. So make a Discord server. I kind of started a Discord server. I didn't end up putting it out there because I didn't feel that I could manage it. I did have some moderators, but I just think it's going to be like crazy if I launch that, and I don't really have the time. I have to focus, decide where to put my time. So I can either go film videos with a Tuareg and the Honda that I have, or I can edit videos, or I can monitor a Discord server, or I can make shorts, or I can post on Instagram, or I can do live stream. Like it's so hard to, manage my time. Thank you, Anders, for your donation. I really appreciate that. Audio, video are good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and a lot of people don't use Discord, so that's the thing. So it's just under an hour. I think I'm going to cut this off. You can still put comments on the video if you want, and I'll get to those, but we're going to shut down the live chat and the live stream. Thank you all so much. I appreciate this. You're all part of this community, and it's amazing. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Ride safe. We'll see you out there.